Alright everyone, so in today's video we're going to go over some commonly asked questions about the MC9200N0 repair. So the software that this comes in, depending on when you got this MC9200, it either comes with Windows CE 7.0, so that's Windows based. Microsoft no longer supports that. Now these MC9200s, you have different versions that are running on Android. Okay, so you want to make sure that the levels of Android are properly installed on this. You might have KitKat, Marshmallow, etc. Windows CE just comes with Windows CE 7. Okay, depending on your application, you might need Windows 7 CE.net or Android, etc. So today's video, I'm just going to go over the commonly changed parts on an MC9200 and what to expect in terms of repair, how much should you be expecting to pay, and then the labor involved and the difficulty, etc. So this is a 92NO. A lot of times with this unit, it'll get stuck in a particular screen. Sometimes it just needs a cold boot. So if you know how to do a cold boot, that'll rectify a lot of your problems. Sometimes you just need to reload the OS. So that might be a level 1 fix. And in order for a technician to look at this, you're probably looking at least a minimum of $100, right? $125 is what we usually charge per hour. And how long does it take for a firmware level? Roughly 45 minutes to an hour. It really depends on what's needed, because the first thing that they're going to do is going to look at the unit, they're going to upload the software, see if that fixes it. If it doesn't, then they go to step 2. To do a reflash of the OS, not that long, maybe about 20-25 minutes, reload the settings, maybe another 10 minutes, so 35 to 45 minutes. And depending on what the shop's hourly rates are, it might be anywhere from 95 to 175 an hour. So I guess you take an estimate. And even when it comes in for a repair quote, the technician still needs to look at it, and they might charge you anywhere from $35 to $50 an hour. So the best thing to do is when you submit an RMA on our website is have a description of the problem. Is it software? Is it a level 1? Is it a cold boot that's needed? Is it a trigger? Is it a screen, LCD, the keyboard, etc.? Okay, so let's get into some of the parts of an MC92NO. Over here we have a housing with the Lorax scanner. So if you look at the LCD here, okay, so this is the LCD. This is the board. Okay, this is the main board, PCB board. And this part actually sits on here, and this is one of the Lorax scanners, flex cables, ribbon cables. And this is actually one of the second most expensive part, which is the Lorax scanner. So depending on what kind of scan engine you have, this might be a 1D, 2D scan engine. This roughly costs about 150 US, roughly. And pretty much it just sits on top. It connects via ribbon cable, etc. So that's when you do order this part. Let's say you're ordering from a different supplier, it won't come with the housing. Okay, so roughly how long will that take? Let's say you need a Lorax scanner change. They swap it out. They had to completely dismantle, put everything back together. That's at least an hour. Reload the settings, an hour to an hour and a half. So I've seen prices vary from $200 to $300 roughly. Lorax scanner changes. It really depends on the quantity that's in stock, right? Because a lot of people are using refurbished units, right? Depending on the application. If you're running Staylink, an emulation piece of software, you can run old guns with your WMS and it works fine, and you don't need Android. Staylink does a great job of supporting their software in older guns. Okay, so that's a Lorax scanner. Let's get into the next piece. This is the LCD that sits behind it right here, and this comes in different flavors. You can just order the LCD without this PCB board. The PCB board is, if you have a 92NO and this PCB board is shot and it needs to go, it's probably not worth it on a 9200. You may as well get a refurbished unit, maybe that costs you from anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500, because this board itself is going to cost you too much. They're going to troubleshoot different things. Hopefully it works. I've seen a lot of problems where sometimes it's just a microphone that's connected and it shorted out something. It just really didn't work, but that took a long time to troubleshoot and isolate, right? So that is a PCB board, really expensive. In terms of the LCD isn't that expensive because depending on the version, like this can fit on multiple devices. Okay, so the LCD, I'm not too sure exactly the cost on this. We have a lot of these, right? They don't break as much as I would say the digitizer. So the PCB board, Sometimes it's just a lot easier to get a fresh unit. You got a PCB board, you got the Lorex scanner, you got the housing. It's an easy, quick change, okay? But that includes a lot of parts, and you'll probably just pay more for that. So let's get into the top housing. So you could order these top housings. It actually comes with a lot. So instead of changing multiple parts like a flex cable, and this is what goes on the bottom of the keyboard. So for example, you take off the keypad is just 2 screws. So for example, on this unit that you can see, it's 2 screws. You slip it off, and underneath it is this. Underneath it is here. So you have a 92N0, and this is the actual flex cable housing here. So that's how it sits. And at the bottom you have 2 pin clips. So if you have a keyboard that's not working, you might want to try and brush this off, see if it works. Okay, change the keypad. If it doesn't work, okay, and your keypad is doing something strange, you might need a reload of the OS. You might even need a reload of the OS once you change the keyboard, or once you change the flex housing, so it recognizes it. I've seen a lot of companies order keypads. They'll order the keypads, but it still doesn't work. Sometimes you need a reload, and sometimes you can't get those files unless you're a vendor, you're a value-add reseller and registered with Symbol as a reseller. Then you get access to it based on your level. So that's why a lot of regular companies can't fix that themselves. They try and change a keyboard and it just doesn't work. Okay, so the housing, would I recommend doing this if you actually had a company, your own company? I wouldn't, because you should be spending your time more or less on the duties that are involved, whether you're managing company, etc. Instead of spending 2-3 hours trying to troubleshoot this, kind of leave it to the experts, in my opinion. So anyways, this is the flex cable, and it attaches to the back end onto this piece of board right here. And sometimes when your keyboard doesn't work, or you're stuck in a cold boot, sometimes you just need to reattach this piece, leave it out, take out the backup battery and test it. But like I said, that might take an hour and a half. You take out the backup battery, which is here. So the backup battery is right here. You unplug that from here like that, leave it out, reconnect it, test everything, see if it works. Okay, so that's the housing on this, the flex cable. Okay, and sometimes you're missing that pin which connects the battery underneath it, like right here. Okay, so when you stick in this battery, you have 2 contacts in here. Okay, and those 2 contacts line up here. So the first thing to check when this thing isn't powered on is check this. Okay, then you might want to change this flex housing, or if you have one of these units already, you change this quickly right before starting anything, right? Because you're gonna have to fit everything, the housing, the plastic, take out the connectors or ribbon cables. It's a lot easier to do it that way, right? Instead of dismantling everything, you just take 2 pieces and you connect it. So, and this is pretty tricky. There's a lot of sticky parts in here, and if you don't have those components to glue everything back together, it becomes somewhat of a mission to get this off and then put it back on, because you detach these 2 screws, you take off this cable from the main board right here, and then you have glue pieces that you got to reattach. Okay, and then you have to be careful when you're putting this back together that you don't tear off these parts as they go in. Okay, so as these go in. So this is called like a top housing, which you can order, but not too many people resell these top housings, or sometimes, if you have spare units, it's easy to just swap out if you know what you're doing. So the other piece I want to talk about is the LCD. So this is your touch screen, and as you can see, you've got this ribbon cable here. It just naturally just pops out. If you give it a little pressure from the top here, you push it out, you can see that this is a little trickier. So when you connect this part onto the board, you actually have to slide that into this piece. I would say this is the trickiest part, the LCD, because you got to dismantle the whole part, the digitizer, slide that in, and then as you slide this piece in, it's got to fit nice and snug. Take all the cables and move it this way, and at the same time you don't want to forget this piece, which kind of slides right into here, right into there. And I like to use small needle nose pliers, like really small, in the screwdriver, and you kind of wedge that in there, two hands, and then you kind of slide it in this cable, and hopefully it connects, and then you retest, put in the battery, see if it turns on, etc. So that's the digitizer. It doesn't cost that much. It's a pain. Shop hours, I would say you're looking at least an hour and a half, depending on how fast that tech is. But, you know, like I said, you know, you might see a labor part for $85 on a digitizer just for this piece, or you might see labor at $200. It just really depends, because sometimes the tech will troubleshoot it and change that, but it's another component. Maybe it's a cable. Okay, maybe it's this part right here that is broken. Maybe it's the board. Okay, so then they change the board, right? And then sometimes you connect the ribbon cable to the speaker, and that might be the issue. So it's multiple areas of troubleshooting, but it's always handy to have a lot of these boards in your shop, right? Because once you have a lot of these boards, it just makes life easier to troubleshoot. But at the same time, you don't want your techs wasting components that they don't need to, right? Because on the board itself, if it's just a flex cable that's needed, you could just easily swap that out instead of swapping a new board for a customer, right? You're just going through your parts very fast. So the last piece I want to talk about, or the last two pieces, sometimes your pistol grip is damaged, right? The rubber sealings. Some people really care about the rubber sealings and they want that changed. You could get that changed all over the units. Like you got 4 rubber sealings here, and then you also have one over here and then some over here. Okay, so the last 2 parts is the pistol trigger. Okay, so that gets changed. Slide out a couple of screws here. The last part is the housing itself, right? So sometimes if you have the housings with the pistol trigger on, you could order them. It's just a lot easier to connect that. Hopefully it works and it solves your problems. But like I said, we've seen weird things, because you got 3 connectors here. And if you connect it, like I said, sometimes it's a speaker, and you know that just kind of blows everything away. I've seen some weird things on this. But anyways, we've been doing this, the minor stuff and repairs on site. For example, if you call us and submit an RMA and it's a keyboard, and we're already there at your shop or heading to your site to do a site assessment or take down an AP, sometimes you might have like 4 or 5 units that just need a keyboard. We'll try the keyboard, and you're just paying for the on-site services for us at that range. Depending if you have a maintenance contract with us, it's $125 if you are a client of ours. If not, then you're paying about $195 an hour if you don't have a maintenance contract. And then we just charge you for, okay, you need an access point change. We're on site already. We have a couple of keyboards that the tech could come on site and just swap it out for you and test it. And if it doesn't, then it has to go back to the shop. But you're still paying for these services involved. So that's everything. Majority for the 9200. Are they easy to fix? In my opinion, it just really depends on what part is needed. LCD digitizer, not my favorite. Keyboards, yes. LoRa scanners, not so much. Boards, wouldn't recommend it right now until there's more parts available. But anyways, that's it for the video. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll create another video.